decided to add 2 other topics, which we'll go through in the course of the presentation. I want to also use this opportunity to thank Brother A.Y. Jibeku for the efforts. I want to thank the pastor for the support and all what you have been doing. God will continue to reward each and every one of you. And I also want to thank everyone that is present and also give glory to God for the grace to be able to do this. Like I've mentioned, we are going to be talking about the tax systems in the Netherlands. We are going to be talking about the overview of structure types and the implication. Today is 9th of November, and my name, I believe everyone knows me good enough. My name is Edward Adewale Adedeji. That's what the A in the middle means. So, the objective is to provide an overview of the Dutch tax system, including the types of taxes, structure, and key features. In Netherlands, they have a lot of tax regimes, many. But I'm going to limit this presentation to the ones which we deal with on day-to-day basis, that concerns us on monthly basis, either as individual or if we have a company, which I believe is more relevant in this case. Importance of this presentation today is to have an understanding of the tax system, the essentials, as applicable to individuals and businesses in the Netherlands. So before I proceed, I want to put up a disclaimer. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I am a civil servant, just to let you know. So I need to also tell you that I'm not going to be doing this as a tax consultant, because it will be against the rules of being a government official. And I'm also going to say that I'm not doing this as a source of income to myself. So this is just pure presentation and general information, and also for the benefit of everyone that is going to see it, watch it, or have a copy of it. Overview of the tax system in the Netherlands. Netherlands has a progressive tax system. That means when you see a tariff, it doesn't mean that tariff is what is applied. It's a build-up to that tariff. And it starts somewhere. So in the course of the presentation, we'll see how it is applied. Taxes are levied at national level, at provincial level, and also at local government level.
Question.
Yes.
I have a question. Can you give an example of how we can visualize what's progressive taxes?
Oh, you will see that later. Because I have a separate session for Q&A, so where we can answer the questions. So please keep your questions or write it down somewhere so that at least. Pastor, please.
Okay, I also want to ask what tariff is, because maybe it's a word that you will continue to use in the course of time, and it's good to know what tariff is from the beginning.
We'll see it. Okay. Everything is in there, but of course, during the Q&A, I want to answer, put all the answers together, and then everyone can listen along. So like I mentioned, taxes are levied at national level, at provincial level and also at county level, that is local level. We pay taxes at local level, like when we pay for the taxes for the pickup of our garbages and all the stuff. All those levies are put in place in the local level. At the provincial level, when we pay for our water purification, for example, and at national level, when it has the backing of the parliament. So that means they are put in place by law. The tax system in the Netherlands is coordinated through the Belastingdienst, that is the tax authority. I put links. There are so many details, especially people who are new in the Netherlands, which you can find on the website of I Am Expert, and also from the tax authority. In Netherlands, we have the box system. The box system has to do with, let me say, the individual system, the taxes that concern the individuals, and also the taxes that concerns the companies, that is corporate tax. For individuals, we have box 1, box 2, and box 3. So we'll get to know or see more of these in the next slides. The companies are subjected to, let me say, tax on the profit that has been made during the year. If a company has operated for 1 year, because every let me say financial year or fiscal year in the tax term is always 1 year. So it can be from January to December, it can be from February then to February of the following year, it can be from June, but then June of the following year. That is how the tax authority counts the 12 months. So when you are going to do your tax as, for example, as a company, the first question that will be asked is, what is the starting period? Automatically, when you give the starting period, the system counts 12 months on top. So which means from the month of start to plus 12 months. Then apart from the individual tax, that is the income tax, the corporate tax, we also have the VAT. And the VAT is paid by everyone. Everyone. Each time you buy something, you have to deal with VAT. So that means whatever you buy, you have paid VAT. That is value added tax. How it works, how government gets the money, I will explain also on course of the presentation. And then we have property tax for people who have houses of their own, or people who have houses that are being used as a source of business. There is always a property tax. Then other taxes are inheritance tax. People who have lost their father or mother or parents, they know more about this. I just mentioned this so that at least just for the awareness, not especially because we are still young. Our parents are not here, most of us, so we don't have much to do with this. We don't have much to do with this, but maybe in the future our children might have something to do with this. But then, when we are old enough. Then we have gift tax. I mean, you wonder what gift has to do with tax. It's very interesting. if your father or mother gives you something, some money, substantial amount of money as tax, substantial amount of money as gift, tax will see the money coming into your account, and they will, before you know it, you will receive a letter asking you, hey, what is this for? And then you will have to explain. And then they will ask you, what does it mean for? Are you going to use the money to buy something, or are you going to use the money to just keep it for yourself or for your children? So a lot of questions will be asked. At the end of the day, when the purpose is defined, and then it will tell you if you are going to pay the tax now, or you are going to pay the tax in the future. But the purpose determines when you pay the tax. Excess taxes. Now, excess taxes is the tax we pay on the products that are produced, but it's very invisible. You hardly notice it. But the products that are produced, excess tax in Netherlands represent import tax, because most of the things that are being imported to the Netherlands comes from other EU countries. And EU countries are not supposed to charge tax on the exchange of goods within themselves. So if Netherlands or a businessman from Netherlands import goods from Germany, the goods will come in from Germany with zero tax. However, businessman in the Netherlands will now add his own tax, which you hardly notice, but it's there. Income tax structure. Like I mentioned earlier, for individuals, we have box 1. Everyone that is paying salary, or if you're earning salary from your own company, has to do with box 1. Box 1 is where everyone reports their income to the tax authority. The thing is, the system in the Netherlands is so arranged that you yourself, you don't have to do much except provide all the relevant information to your employer, and your employer does the rest. So at the end of the year, the tax authority receives all the details about the money you have been paid. In summary, the total money you have received, the amount of tax that has been paid, the amount of money you have received to compensate for your transport, all those things. They call it year of alphabet. That is a yearly summary of your salary for the whole year. So you receive it. If you have your own company, mostly BV or NV, for example, it is expected that you'll be on the payroll of the BV, because the BV is also, by law, a legalized entity. So which means the company will pay you salary, and at the end of the year, the company will give you the same summary of the amount of money that has been paid to you as owner as salary. And apart from that, of course, if the company makes profit, because the salary paid to you is part of the expenses to the company. I'm going to go a little bit into my accountancy side now to explain things. So, the salary that is paid to you is part of the expenses to the company. Rent, if the company has given you a lease car, it's part of the expenses of the company. However, at the end of the year, if the company, after paying all those expenses, if the company still make profit, the company will declare dividends. And who is the owner? The dividend comes to you as the owner, of course, and then you still get the money, and then you will still, at the end of the day, pay again, dividend will last. Yes, marvelous.
So, Thank you. And what is the structure for particular?
Particularly, that is the one we are doing now.
Okay.
So I started with box 1. So
Because you had it about BV and MV.
yes, that because the reason why I added that is because you as an individual, you wonder, hey, if I have a company, what happens? That's why I just debated a little bit to give what is applicable as far as the situation is when you have your own company and you are going to also operate as an individual.
That was my question.
Okay. But I'll go a little bit further when we get to the corporate thing. When I said progressive rates, then I'm saying that the starting tariff for the tax is 19.07. That is the lowest. And the highest is 49.5. So people will think, hey, I'm paying a lot of tax. Yes. But it is progressive. So I'm going to take you to the next explanation. So if you fall in the income group 0 to 40,021 euro, you will pay 19.07%. 19.07%. So if you, by the time your employer gives you the yearly summary, if you calculate the amount you have paid as tax, it will come to about this percentage. That is if your salary is so low, 40,000. It used to be lower, but in 2024, this is the amount that is applicable. If you fall in the income group of 40,022 to 75,518, your income will fall within 36.97. So which means that the first 40,000 will be taxed at 19.07. And then above 40,000, anything between 40,000 will now fall within the 36.97 tariff. So that means you fall within income tariff, or let me say tax tariff, in 2 stages. I hope it's clear.
Yes.
Okay. Now, actually, that is why it is called progressive. So when you have an income that is above 75,000, so after the first 40,000 is taxed against 19.07, the second one is taxed when you receive up to 75,000. So when, for example, if you have an income of 80,000 on an annual basis, so up to 75,000 will be against 19.07 and 36.97. Then the remaining 5,000 will now be taxed at 49.5. I hope it's clear.
Yes.
So box 2, which also applies to individuals. Box 2 is when you have a company of your own, for example, or you invest in a company and your investment is above 5%. If you have an investment of 5.1%, you have a substantial as far as tax is concerned. So when you get the money as dividend from the amount of money which you have invested, the money will be subjected to the tax, as I've explained here. So which means you have a substantial interest of, let me say, 67,000. So the money you receive as dividend will be taxed at 24.5%. Is it clear? If you have questions, please just take note of it. When we get to the Q&A, we'll come back to this. And then box 3. Box 3 takes care of your wealth. The investment you have, for example, if you have a second house, it's an investment. That is the house which you bought because you have surplus money. If you buy shares, for example, or you buy cryptos or any other money, if you borrow money to people, it's also part of it, because it is expected that you have an agreement that shows that, hey, I'll borrow so amount of money, like 200,000 or 1 million to so person, and it is agreed from so date to for a certain number of months or years, and the person is going to pay me as compensation for the use of my fund. So this is very, very important to take note of. Actually, many people do not know much about the existence of box 3 because many people fall within box 1 and box 2. However, from next year, it's going to be very, very prominent as far as tax system in the Netherlands is concerned, because the court has given the tax authority now the go-ahead, the green light to enforce box 3. So if you have not been doing tax that has to do with box 3 in the past, the possibility is there that you will receive a letter from the tax authority either this year or next year to provide more details of your wealth, or let me say your properties or whatever has to do with extra money or the things that goes beyond box 1 or box 2. So please take note of this. So box 3, the value of your wealth in box 3, if you are single, up to 57,000 is tax-free. If you are married, the 57,000 is times 2. So 114,000 will not be taxed. However, 120,000, then 6,000 will be taxed. So take note of this. 30% ruling. I'm sure many of you might have heard of 30% ruling, but not everyone knows how it works. You as an expert, or maybe you come to the Netherlands to work. You have a contract for 1 year or maybe 2 years or 3 years, and they have agreed with you that they are going to pay you a certain amount of money, and they mention 30% ruling. You wonder, hey, what are they talking about? It's very interesting. If you do not have the plan to stay permanently in the Netherlands, because it's a big advantage for you. So I'm going to do a little bit of more explanation on this. The 30% is a tax advantage for skilled immigrants, that is expert employees in the Netherlands. And the ruling goes over a period of 60 months, 5 years. So the tax authority will give you the option, or let me say give you or give your employer the option to choose how they want to do it. However, from last year, the standard ruling is that it used to be more than 5 years, but from last year, they have pegged it down to 5 years max. So, which is 60 months. So, you will get 30% tax exempt for the first 20 months, which means 30% of your salary will not be taxed. So 70% will be subjected to tax in the first 20 months. It's just to be able to give you, let me say, the financial space. For example, if you happen to come as an expert and you need money to send to your family back home or something, so tax has taken all those things into consideration and looked into it critically and say, hey, for somebody to have decided to come and work in our economy and help us grow our economy, how do we compensate the person? And this is part of the incentive government has put in place. So after the first 20 months, the 20% will be reduced, the 30% will be reduced to 20%. That is, the 20% will also run for the next 20 months. And then after the 40 months, you only receive 10% for the remaining 20 months. And that completes the 5 years. So it is expected that by the time the 5 years completes, you have already decided if you want to stay in the Netherlands or you still want to go back to your country. So it is expected that after the 5 years then, and you still continue to want to live in the Netherlands, then the normal standard process applies, like it applies to everybody. So, and of course, there is also a ruling that is attached to it. Your salary has to be a minimum of 65,868 in order to qualify for the tax ruling. If at the time of applying this ruling, the employee is younger than 30 years, then the maximum amount, or let me say the amount applicable will be 50,069 euros. So take note of this, that if a company is taking you from outside the Netherlands and is trying to apply or maybe offer you such amount of money, there are a lot of things that goes into it. So maybe it's not explained, but these are the things that are factored into it. So if you have your own BV, let's say apart from you being an employer somewhere, you have your own BV which you use to work as a CCPA, that is, you have a company without personnel. So you are also the personnel of your BV. You can also apply the 30% ruling, but your BV needs to inform the tax authority. And then the whole process applies as I have explained. I hope it's clear. For BV and NV registered company, now most of us will have to do with BV and not NV. NVs, the companies that falls within the NV group they are the big corporations. You know, the Nike of this world, the Philips, They are the MVs. And then these are companies that employs more than a certain number of employees. So when you have certain number of employees on your payroll, then you are qualified to apply for SMV. So actually it's nothing special, but it's a kind of prestige thing. Because by the time you introduce your own company and you say that your company is an MV, people look at you in a different manner because they know that, hey, you have been operating for a certain number of years and you have certain numbers of people under your payroll. So BV is very common. Very, very common. Even companies which are operating under the holding structure, they have a lot of BVs. The standard corporate tax is 25.8. That is on the tax applicable on the profit. Tax tariff applicable on the profit. When you make a profit that is less than 200,000, government also have a sort of incentive. The incentive says that you can charge, or let me say you can charge your BV 15% tax. If your profit is, or let me say maximum of 200,000. The reason is because to also give a sort of incentive to company to have extra money to grow. There is also a special incentive for innovation and investment. Let me go a little bit into this. If you have a company that does research and you have quite a numbers of, let me say, successful research on your shelf, which companies are yet to buy from you or which are yet to sell. Of course, if it's an innovation, or let me say research that is going to expire for over a certain number of period, or maybe new one will come that is even more better than yours, if care is not taken, of course, the money you have spent on your research will be wasted. It will become a sunk cost. In order to avoid that, you can inform the tax authority and say, hey, I've spent so amount of money on research. I have an agreement, or let me say, I've not gotten a company to buy the result of my research. So, how do you want me to put it? You can agree with the tax authority to amortize the value of the research over a certain number of years. So, which means that you can actually expense part of the value of the research. For example, let's say you spend 500,000 euros on the research. You have gotten the result, it looks promising, and no company wants to go into it yet. First year, second year, before you know it, 5 years has gone, no company has come forward. Normally, the value will go down in 5 years. So which means if it is left like that, you have wasted money. So in order to avoid that kind of situation, you can agree with tax authority, then you can expense certain part of the value on a yearly basis. That means that reduces the amount of your taxable income. That is, it's not as if government will pay you money back. No, it will reduce the amount of your taxable income. Value added tax. I mentioned value added tax earlier. Companies are acting as a receiving agent for value added tax. So which means when you buy something or you take a service from a company, they charge you €10, but then they charge you 21% on top, which means instead of 10 euro, you pay 12 euro 10. Now, the 2 euro 10, which you pay on top, the company that received the money from you is just acting as a receiving agent because they have to pay the money back to the government. However, it's not as if they're just going to pay the money like that. There are a lot of processes that also goes into it. But in order not to give us some confusion, I'm not going to go too much deeper on this. So unless if you say, hey, I have a business, I want to know more about how this works. Standard rate is 21%. So a lot of things we buy, companies charges us 21%. There are also goods that falls under the 9% low rate. These are food items, medicine, or something. So government is very lenient on this. And then export. If you're a company that exports goods to other European countries, you don't charge VAT. It's zero tariff. So take note of this. Also, other EU companies are also not going to charge you. The only thing is, you will want to have your tax identification number, which is compulsory. You will also want to have your address and also the Chamber of Commerce registration number. This is very important. Also, let me also emphasize on this. If you have your business in which you issue invoice to companies, you must have the tax identification number of the companies you are dealing with, their NAW, that is name, address, and the living place of the company or the individual, and also the Chamber of Commerce identification number. All those details have to be conspicuous on the invoice you're going to issue. Your details and the details of the company you are dealing with. So please take note of this. If these details are not present at the moment, make sure you make adjustment as soon as possible. Because if any day, anytime, the tax authority requires for a copy of your invoice and all those details are missing, they can charge you, they can penalize you for that. Tax management measures. Tax management measures are the activities which you put in place that will help you to manage your tax, manage your expenses, also manage your income. So in the process, you don't end up paying too much tax. Thanks. Let me drink some water, please.
More water in case anyone needs to drink some.
For individuals, I've mentioned it, but it's also very, very important for us. For those of us who have our houses, who bought houses, in Netherlands you are allowed to deduct the interest you are paid for the mortgage for a period of 30 years. So please take note of this, for a period of maximum 30 years. So when you buy a house, even when you have an arrangement with the bank to take the mortgage for the first 5 years or 10 years, which is more or less like the standard, the tax which you pay, let me say the interest which you paid every year, it is expected that the bank will send you the statement of the total amount of money which you have paid for the interest. And then when you are filling in your tax return at the end of the year, you put the value of your mortgage and you put the amount of interest which you have paid. That will be an addition to the tax which you have paid as income tax, and then you'll be able to, by the time the calculation is made, you'll be able to get part of the money back. The expenses which you made on healthcare system. The healthcare system in Netherlands is one of the best, well arranged, but also very expensive. There are some people who spend more than they expect. So apart from the premium which we pay, they spend more money, because if you go to the hospital, you stay 1 week or 2 weeks in the hospital send their bill, they pay a certain amount of money out of the bill, and then you have to pay the rest. So, government make it possible through tax. When you know the amount of money the insurance is ready to pay back or pay from the amount of money which is being charged by the hospital, you can also put the rest in your tax return, and then it will reduce the amount of money which you have to pay to the tax as tax, and then give you the opportunity to get some money back. However, the conditions are also a little bit strict, because the amount of money has to be about a certain amount of money, and of course your income also has to be about a certain amount of money. So most of the time you realize is that a lot of people do not qualify, because if you are in a regular employment and you are making good money, you hardly qualify for it. So most people who fall within this category are people who actually depend on government for their source of livelihood. People who are being paid by the local government, or people who are getting money from government because they have worked for a certain number of years, and because they are sick, they are getting money from the government. So they cannot, for example, if they say, you know what, you cannot work more than 25%. So which means that the money that is being paid by the government is up to 75% of money you're supposed to pay. And then from that 75%, a lot of money is also going for medical bills. So in order to help those kind of people who fall into the category, this is how they get money back from the tax authority. There is also what is called tax bonus. When you are aware of the kind of money you are going to pay for medical bill, you can actually apply directly when you have an idea of how much it will be for a tax bonus, which means every month you'll be getting a certain amount of money to augment the amount of money you are paying for your bill. So, but this is money for people who fall within another category, like I mentioned. I pray God will continue to be with us and protect us against the diseases which is beyond what our body could cope with. So. Another way to also optimize your tax is to make donations to charity, like church organization, like cultural organizations. As a member of church or churches, I do encourage people to support the church, because government here in the Netherlands do not support church directly. So indirectly, this is the way government wants to support church organizations. Members or people who feel, hey, the church is helping me spiritually in one way to grow. Now, you can then, through tithe, offering, donations, support in whatever way possible. At the end of the year, then you can tell the government, I've paid so amount of money to the church. Then there is a level, there is a threshold. For example, for 2024, if I'm not mistaken, the threshold was 385 euros. So if you actually pay, if you have paid 400 euros to a church, for example, minus the 385 euros, so you can actually tell the tax office or the tax authority 15 euro, I've paid 15 euro more than the threshold. So give me the 15 euro back. So it's calculated. You might not get the actual 15 euro back, but substantially, you will see that you get some money back. So I just use that as an example. I'm not saying 15 euros. So as an encouragement, please think about something like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 or more. Then that is when it has some sort of monetary value. So let's take this into consideration and take note of this. I also want to encourage us to submit our tax, or let me say, do our tax return on a yearly basis to avoid double taxation. In some countries, it doesn't really matter where you live. As far as you have the nationality, and as far as you have income, you are supposed to give it to them that, hey, I'm living in so place, I have so amount of money, and then the tax authority in the country, from the home country, will send you a letter to tell you, hey, you are owing us so amount of money. Meanwhile, Netherlands as a country has gotten treaties with different countries. So if you come from countries that has that kind of arrangement, you can tell the government of Netherlands, hey, from my own country, I've paid so amount of money. So that money will now, in order to avoid paying double tax, they will now give you the possibility to also remove, or let me say, add that amount to the amount of tax which you have paid, which will also give you the opportunity to now pay less tax in the Netherlands. Yes, marvelous.
So, for example, what if I earn, let me say, 30,000, or let me say 25,000 on a yearly basis, and now that's registered, so with my company, and I earn 20,000 unregistered, so smart club. What is a smart move for me to do?
Okay, write down the question. I will give you the answer during the Q&A session. So please take note of that. Very interesting. So, like I mentioned, I know that a lot of our people do not do tax return. So in essence, they don't know if they will get some money back from the tax authority. And also on the other side of it is, of course, they're scared if after doing the tax return, they will end up paying more tax. So this, as a person, I cannot 100% guarantee because it's an individual thing. And it's applicable based on the facts which has been presented to the tax authority. However, if you as an individual, you have given the relevant details to your employer, when you start work, the normal thing for them to do is to apply the necessary measures and the correct tariff through which you will not end up paying too much on one side and you will not end up paying too low on the other side. However, because, like I mentioned, there are a lot of expenses, or let me say there are a lot of costs which you might have paid or end up paying during the year, which are not known to the tax authority. By the time you look at all those costs and you put it in your tax return, then the tax return will consider all what you have put in, and even if it is, as long as you are getting money that is more than 26 euros, as long as you are getting money that is more than 26 euro, tax will pay you back. So please take note of this. One of the things that might be interesting for all of us to know, of course, is some people who are married and divorced, who are still paying alimentation to their ex-wife, or paying some money for the upkeep of their children. Those kind of costs are supposed to be taken along in their tax return. So please take note of this, or maybe if you know people who fall into the category, they have the right to put their amounts, if they have the records, because they need to keep the records. So they are allowed to put those expenses in their tax return. For businesses, part of what you do to manage your tax system, or let me say process, is depreciation. A lot of businessmen, they know it, but they consider it to be too much of hassles. So they leave it out. However, how do you get to the point of depreciation? As businessman, you start with even a pen which you use for your business, your telephone, your laptop, the table which you use for your business. Every equipment, utensils, whatever you buy that helps you to hand the money which you are going to provide as source of income is part of the expenses. And if you do not expense the amount in the year which you bought the item, if the item you bought is going to be used for, let me say, more than 2 years, then you are allowed to amortize the amount of money which you have spent. And the amortization takes place via the depreciation, that is through the depreciation which you book. Which from that moment, depreciation is not a cost anymore. Take note of this as well, because there is always a confusion in this area. People think, when I depreciate, what does that mean? It means that when you buy a laptop, for example, on Apple of 2,000 euros, and you are allowed to depreciate your laptop to zero value in 3 to 5 years, the tax authority expects that when you depreciate your laptop to zero, you are going to replace it. Which means that actually your depreciation, which you have used to reduce your profit in the last 3 to 5 years, you have been keeping the money somewhere, and you will use the money again to buy a new laptop. However, the laptop which you depreciated to zero value was 2,000. So you are going to buy 3,000 worth of laptop now. So it means it will cost your company just only 1,000. This is the technicality of it, which a lot of people do not understand. So when we are talking of depreciation, the accountant is supposed to explain how it works for you, so that at least when you are reducing somewhere, you are also keeping it somewhere. Because at the end of the year, you are supposed to be able to show it in your balance sheet that as part of the money you have at the bank, this is also there. It is fictive because it's not visible. The reason is simply because, for example, let me put it this way, you are supposed to pay 4,000 as tax. But because of the depreciation, you end up paying less. So the money which you have paid as a difference between what you were supposed to pay and what you paid, it's actually representing the depreciation which you are having on the bank account. Is the logic clear or not? It's a little bit technical, and it's an area which is not clear to many people, and many people say, you know what, I have so much profit, so, and then they say, hey, how much are you having at the bank? And then they are not able to account for the money at the bank because it's difficult. But that is the area where you have to also look at it. If you have a car, company car, that is your company, give you a car. The car is leased on the name of the company. The lease cost, which the company is paying, is actually a lease cost. But when it is financed in another way, which gives us level of ownership to your BV, you have to depreciate the car. And the value of the car have to be on your balance sheet. So on one side is an asset. On another side, it's a liability. So, and then of course, it has to go against each other. At the end of a certain period of time, it zeroes out. But then, through the depreciation which you are going to apply, or let me say amortization, the value has to be on your bank account. Praise God. R&D. R&D stands for research and development. Lots, or let me say big corporations, spend a lot of money on research and development in order to keep up with the development. If you don't do it, within a couple of years, new company comes up with something, some sort of innovation, and you're overtaken. Before you know it, you're out of the market. It has happened to big corporations like Motorola, like Ericsson. So if you do not innovate, it could be a serious issue. So it's about sustainability anyway. So let's take serious consideration on this. Intellectual property. Now, intellectual property, we've seen a lot of things happening, in the last 5, 10, 20 years, a lot of innovations. Tesla, for example, is a very big name in the area of electric vehicle. For many years to come, if Tesla do not bring out any other vehicle, they will still continue to make money. The reason is because they will continue to earn money on intellectual property on the name Tesla. The reason is simply because you will see other companies coming up with something similar to Tesla, but they will not use the name Tesla. Tesla will agree with them. If you are going to use the name Tesla, you become part of us. However, because we do not want to carry your liability, we can give you what we have as technology, and you pay us for the use of our technology. That is where the point of intellectual property comes in. I hope this is clear. Okay. I'm not going, because it's also, I mean, it's a long story, but I'm not going to go too much into this because otherwise it becomes a little bit more complex. Tax deferral. How does it work? If you are a startup, new company that is very promising, you have this fantastic idea, you can apply to the tax authority and say, hey, we have this fantastic idea, we know we are going to be making money from second year or from third year. However, we want to apply for tax break for the next 5 years or the next 5-6 years, so that we'll be able to use the money which we are going to save paying tax to reinvest for the growth of the company. So instead of we going to the bank to borrow money or calling other parties to join us and share in our profit, we don't want that. So give us a break of 2 to 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. And then after the 10 years, we will now, so what will happen is, it's not as if they're not going to pay for the period of the deferral, no. They will now, every year they are submitting their books. They are also submitting the amount they were supposed to have paid for the tax. So every year the tax will be adding the amount of money, it will pile up, and then they will now agree with the tax authority and say, the next 3 years, we're now going to start paying. And then tax will, from that moment, tax will now start reaping the money. So, trust me, tax will calculate also the interest. So it's not as if they will say, okay, you know what, you have been saving this money for us all this year, so, you know. No, it will also calculate the interest on the money, which they are supposed to have earned if they have received the money. Interest payment on loans. It's also part of the tax management. It looks so simple and it looks very standard. I mean, you borrow money from the bank and you're supposed to be paying pay the money back. What happens is there are some companies, they think, or let me say the owners think they're smart. What do? They are paying the interest, but they are not paying back the main loan. So, the normal thing for you to do as a businessman is, when the going is good, always take all those things into consideration. Some people will say, well, if I have to go back, if I pay back now, then I have to go back again when I need money. No. It's easy if you pay back part of the loan, because the loan reduces, the major reason why a lot of companies always choose to pay only the interest and not the main loan is to also, it has to do also with the tax. Because the more interest you pay, the less dividend, or let me say dividend tax you pay, because you declare less profit. If your loan goes down, you pay less interest, which means you have less interest amount to put on your expenses, or let me say on your expenditure. So some companies say, you know what, I do not, when the banks are not asking me to pay back the loan, I don't have to worry myself. Or they tell the bank manager or the bank will say, you know what, after all, I'm paying your tail interest, you don't have to worry. So as soon as so, I'll pay you, but they will not pay. But I will always advise, if you take money as loan from the bank, but please make sure the reason why you take the loan is genuine for the interest of the company, because you cannot borrow money from the bank and use the money to buy a car, and you think you are doing the right thing. You know, you can buy the latest Mercedes, of course, it's nice, but it's not helping the company. It has to be something that has to do with the development of the company. Very, very important. If you borrow money from the bank for research and development because you need experts which are going to be helping you, and you need the money to be able to pay the salary, very good. If you employ the service of a research and development company and you have to pay for the research and you have to get a loan for that, it's also very good because it has value. It has value. It's an asset on the balance sheet of your company. So this is very, very important. So I said, utilizing these deductions effectively can help reduce the overall tax base. So tax base is just the amount of money which is supposed to be used to calculate your tax liability. When it is low, you pay low. When your tax base is high, you pay more tax. Recent development. Let me take some water, please. Since about 2 to 3 years, the government of Netherlands has introduced what they call the green tax initiatives. So if a company decides to, for example, install energy saving machine, for example, sun energy, for example, and it costs millions because you need to buy a piece of land, you need to get maybe 100 or 200 sun energy panels to be installed here, and it's going to provide 24 hours electricity, so it reduces your dependency on Vattenfall or whatever, or maybe the energy companies. So government considers it as green energy, or let me say green initiative. And then you can also tell the government, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I'm going to put it on my balance sheet for the next 10, 20 years. And then it will help you to reduce the amount of money which you pay as tax to the government. That's part of the green initiative. It could be in other areas. For example, if you're a transport company and you changed all your vehicles or your trailers into, let me say, source of energy or fuel, less fuel consumption, something. So it's also a form of green initiative because it reduces the pressure on the environment. So as long as it is something that you can prove, and it's something that at the end of the day, government and you have expert that gives you a letter that says, hey, if you, as a company that is into this, if you do this and do this and do this, this is the amount of money you're going to save. And this is the amount of money you're also going to save or save the environment. You know, if you can show all those details, all well and good. The tax will buy into the ideas, and before you know it, you will get a green light to do whatever you want to do. So, and the thing is, government actually set up a special fund to also help companies in this area. But the conditions are a little bit different. So which means you need to meet up with the different, you need to meet up with conditions in order to qualify to get the money. So instead of you going to the bank to get a loan that's a little bit higher, government have a fund that is not charging more than maybe 2 or 3%, and which they can even tell you, you know what, the first 1 or 2 years, you don't have to pay back. So all those things are in place as part of the green initiative. But of course, like I said, you have to qualify as a company. Digital services tax. In the last 10 years, of course, we have experienced a lot of revolution as far as provision of information is concerned. A lot of companies have gone out of business because of this. What government is doing is that they are also looking into those areas. For example, people who lost their job due to this kind of innovation needs to be compensated. But there are things that are not open to an average businessman anyway, unless you are a little bit deeper into that area. So anything digital nowadays attracts the interest of the government because, number one, it takes away a body in one area and lightens the body in another area, but also take away the job opportunity from those areas, but also create other opportunities in other areas. So people who are coming up with innovations and ideas or new development, especially in the area of digital thing, that is where government gets money to fund all those areas. So, and I think it's about 2 years now that within the EU it is agreed that government will look into, or let me say governments within the EU are going to be looking into those areas as far as digital services or digital innovations are concerned. So, but this is only applicable to businesses that are going into those areas. Then, tax reforms. Tax reforms, they are always ongoing systems in the Netherlands. The reason is because every new government we have, they always look into the area of tax, because tax is a very important, it's like an engine of the economy. In fact, as far as Netherlands is concerned, that is the #1 engine of the economy. So, in one area they will say, yes, we are going to reduce the tax tariff, but trust me, when they reduce it in one area, they also going to increase it in another area. So it's not as if they will reduce it in one area and they will leave it like that. Because people will ask questions. People who are benefiting from the other area, how do you fund it? How are you going to get money to fund it? So money has to come from somewhere. And this is the reason why it's always, in certain circle they say, hey, government takes it from with right hand and give it back through the left hand. Or they give it back through the left hand and they take it back to the right hand. So this is what actually they are talking about. I've also added the key features of the Dutch tax system. Now, tax system in the Netherlands is very transparent. Transparent in the sense that you can call the tax authority and ask any questions. They will always be willing to give you the relevant answers. If you are not happy or comfortable with the answer, send them email. They will give you a comprehensive information, the link to read all the relevant information and article. And most people, especially businessmen, of course, they employ the service of a tax expert who will also help them in one way or the other with advice, with suggestions, and also hold them in the hand in every step of the way. International treaties. Like I've mentioned already, the government of Netherlands have a lot of treaties with different countries to avoid double taxation, like I've explained. Incentives. There are incentives for innovation, for sustainability, and also for people who are going into business for the first time. People who are going into the business for the first time, the benefit starts from your bank. Your bank will say, okay, you know what, the first year or the first 2 years, you don't have to pay anything on the use of your bank account, for example. Of course, we can ask the government, depends on the area of business which you have, and then whatever way government can help you to sort things out. And also the service of the Chamber of Commerce is also very important. The Chamber of Commerce always have a separate section where they provide support and advice, and they introduce you to companies which might be of use to your growth and development. Digital taxation. Now, I've explained this. Conclusion. Tax system is very comprehensive and designed to be fair and transparent. Yeah, fair. My lecturer, when I was in the school, he told us that if anybody tell us that the tax authority is your friend, no, they are not your friend, because you are their source of income. You are their source of income. So if they are friendly to you, it is because they know that if they are not friendly to you, something happens, then a source of income is deviated. So in order to avoid that kind of situation, they have to make sure that even when everyone in a country have to pay tax, which is always not the case, you don't mind. The reason is simply because the primary law of tax says that every income, that is the primary law, every income which you have must be subjected to tax. And then, of course, other clauses goes into it that exempt one income or the other, and those reasons why you could be exempted when you have those kind of income. It's a continuous adaptations in the Netherlands. Like I've mentioned, every new government comes with their own initiative. Every political party says, yes, your programs are good, but mine are better. So, and then they have this government agency that has so much authority, and they are very independent. So when a political party comes up and say, hey, my tax regime or my tax system is better than the other political party, They say, yes, give us the details. They do a quick calculations and all this stuff, and they say, you know what? We are talking nonsense. This is the reason, this is the reason, this is the reason. These people says they are better here. This is the area where your own is weak. They will explain. So, there are a lot of government agencies where they have their purpose. Essential for individuals and businesses to stay informed about their tax obligations. Like I've mentioned, the engine of the economy in the Netherlands is the tax system. So if for any reason government discovers that, hey, this guy, you are not fulfilling your tax obligation, it can be very mean. It can be very, very, very mean. That means almost every week you are receiving the blue envelope. Now the moment we have all been waiting for, the floor is open. Good. Very, very, let me see, good question. Like I've mentioned, companies, number one primary thing as far as running business is concerned in the Netherlands is you have to register with the Chamber of Commerce, which is the KVK. So when you register your company with KVK, you have to give in detail what your company is going to be doing, what you expect in terms of result, development, growth, income, all those things, how many people you are going to employ. And of course, you have to also explain where you are coming from. So in the process, the information which you have provided, tax authority also have access to the information. And then you realize that from that moment, the KVK as an organization will not just leave you alone to be doing it your own way. As far as you knock on their door, they will explain. So that means from that moment, you have the choice to apply to the tax authority and say, hey, tax, I'm going to be in this area of business, and this is what it entails, and these are the expectations. As far as finance is concerned, as far as management is concerned, as far as, let me say, the cost, obligations are concerned. So all those things, you have to put all those things into papers. I will not say papers for them to evaluate. Based on that, they will be able to look into where the tax authority will help you out. Either they give you a tax break, like I've mentioned, tax deferral, whereby 3 years or 5 years, the first 3 or 5 years in the life of the business, you don't have to pay tax. Is it clear now, Anu?
I think our question is, why are they taxing innovation?
Yeah. This is, like I said, they are not taxing innovation. It depends on what you say. If your company is going to be making profit from day one, if your company is going to be making sales and then making profit from day one, then of course you are going to pay tax on the profit. If your company will make more expenditures than revenue, you are not going to make profit, which means for all those years that you are not going to make profit, you don't have to pay tax. they will not ask you to pay tax. The only thing government will look into, of course, which you have to have at the back of your mind is the company small? Are you the only employee? Is the company having employees? Because if the company is having you as an employee and you are earning salary, then it is expected that you will pay income tax. Or employees. It means that those employees will pay income tax. But for the period in which your company is not making profit, you don't have to. You will not need to pay tax. Yeah? Okay.
I just want to add to what he has just said. Why should they be taxing the digital business? Innovation.
Yeah.
I think as long as it has this business connotation, government needs to do what they have to do with anything that is business. And the sole purpose of government involvement is not about how much money they can get out of it.
No.
It's about knowing what you also need to be successful as in your R&D or in whatever you are doing.
Yeah.
So anyhow, tax comes from profit you make, either as digital innovator or as a market woman selling something on the street. So, and I think also we need to talk about what is the advantage of paying tax. Is it encouraged for citizens and business people to be paying tax or to be running away from paying tax? So, because if everybody is running away from paying tax, then government will run aground. So if we are encouraged to pay tax and we see the dividends of tax payments, we will be encouraged. So anyhow, I think also in the midst of it, if you are honest with the government, there are some things that government, when they may not like taking advantage, but it looks as if they take advantage, because from experience, I've always liked to make things open and declare this, declare that. But I realized there was a year that I declare all my income and they asked for ×2 of what I make, that year, and without giving me enough time to even pay. I was forced to pay, and that time I regretted being honest as much as I did. Yes, and in that year, I was advised because the money was made outside of this country, but I brought it down to this country, and then they saw it and they all of this, and they didn't say anything. They waited for me to spend all the money they were making. And then they came back after, well, they forced me into formatting this money, and that was discouraging. But by and large, is it really something? What's your advice for us regarding that? Should we be running away from it, or should we be, obedient and be reasonable?
Praise God. Part of what I said in the conclusion was that the Dutch tax system is comprehensive and designed to be fair and transparent. The reason is because at any point in time, government need facts. Facts. They need the details. That means that when you are dealing with the government, you have to make sure that you have the documents that support what you want to tell them. If you tell them that, hey, I have made 50,000 euros, but you cannot substantiate, you cannot prove how the 50,000 is earned, that will be a big issue. I emphasize on the big issue because two ways government will look at it. It's either you are involved in some sort of criminal or illegal activity which gives government the right to take everything. Or you are involved in a situation which you know how to explain it, but you want to lie. So, this is the same. Another thing, Pastor, to answer your question, all the money that government is getting from people from tax is also being spent for what we see around us. Through the money which government hands, people who are jobless are being paid. People who have the potential to lose their job are being taken care of. People who do not have any means of income are being taken care of. The environment is taken care of. All the policies of the government are being financed through the tax which they put in place. So when the tax authority collects money here and there, they also distribute the money to the ministries, and through the ministries, each minister looks at what needs to be done in his own area of portfolio, and they spend the money for it. But I think most of the policies of the government is to make sure that people are taken care of. That is the primary. The interest of the people are taken care of. And then, of course, to make people comfortable. They spend a lot of, for example, Marvelous, I'm coming, just please, give me 1 minute. For example, we see that in the last 10, 20 years, a lot of cables are being done here and there. You wonder, when are they going to stop? Every now and then they have a place where they dig the ground, put the cable. In the land, that is how it is. You don't see cable unless there is a power line. Other things goes deep in the ground. It costs a lot of money to do all those things. Although the telecom companies that are going to be making use of all those things, they give them certain number of years to pay back. It's not as if government will say, okay, you know what, we allow you to be making use of the facilities or infrastructures. So no, it costs them millions, or let me say billions of euros to put all those things in place. So this is it. So when we enjoy it, of course it's nice. The road network is very good, but of course it costs money. We pay, of course, every month if you drive car, you pay road tax. But the thing is, government will tell you the road tax you pay is not enough. The road tax which you pay me, we use it to pay salaries of the people who are monitoring what needs to be monitored. We use it to service the traffic lights.
It's reasonable to pay tax.
Exactly. So the infrastructure itself, this is the money which government uses to finance all those things. Marvelous.
Yes.
And I'll have a lot of questions from you, right?
Question?
Yeah. Questions. A lot of questions from you.
For me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, maybe to add to what you have said as well.
Yeah.
I think because I work at Maximise, like at the maybe I was about to say it in English, but I had an interview last week, and at my interview they talked about how this person imports and exports cars. So and he wanted to, I wrote a diagram. He didn't want to pay tax over. He didn't want to pay tax over the transport that he did. But the thing that the colleague who I interviewed said was over every value,
Yeah.
you pay tax. You can transfer money, you pay tax. Even your house, you pay tax. Everything that's of value, you pay tax. The thing is, when you want to know where you don't have to pay tax over, then you have to seek for a fiscal, someone who's specialized in fiscality.
Yeah.
That person will tell you these are the benefits, and these are the pros and cons. So if you earn this type of money, then you can do this.
Yep.
Maybe you can buy a company car, or maybe you can invest.
Yep.
If you don't earn this money, then he will advise you to do something else.
Yep.
An accountant is mainly focused on finance. So that's the thing that I wanted to add to what you said.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to claim as a tax consultant because I am not under my employment regulation to do that. I'm also not going to say, hey, whatever I tell you now is, hey, go and make use of it. No, this is just for information only. If I come now as a tax consultant and I introduce myself as a tax consultant, then I am liable to provide my certificate that allows me to do or give advice on those things. I already mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I'm a civil servant, and under my oath, I'm not allowed to do that. But within the context of our church arrangement, I can provide information that help others to know more about how the system works in the Netherlands. It's not binding. Let me put it that way.
Creating awareness.
Yeah, create awareness. Yes. Next question, please.
Yeah, for some of us, we are tech people, and often we have more than one job. And in the case of what Pastor said, you earn money in Nigeria, and then sometimes you bring it here and all that. Now, if you earn money in Nigeria, so you work in Nigeria, you're also working here, but you are here. Do you pay tax on the money you earn in Nigeria here? As one, but two, how can you avoid those complex taxes, or reduce the tax?
Yeah. I'm going to say it this way.
Sorry.
Can I add to the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, just the question I has mentioned now. So, do they know that you have a job outside of the Netherlands? And if they don't know, do you let them know that yes, you have a job in the Netherlands, because you have to declare on your income. Yeah.
Praise God. How do you see? Let me put one question. Let me create a hypothetical situation. How does the tax authority know that you have an income outside the Netherlands? Number one, somebody who knows you, that you have an income outside Netherlands, gives an hint to the tax authority. The tax authority will now look into it and say, okay, because the neighbor sees you driving the latest Mercedes. And he says, how much does this Mercedes of my neighbor cost? The Mercedes of my neighbor costs 300,000 euros. My neighbor, we discussed last year, a few weeks ago, he says his income is about 40,000 euro per 40,000 euro the year. How can my neighbor be driving a car of 300,000 when he has told me that his income, he all the time is complaining to me that everything is expensive in the market. So, and then he is driving 300,000 what? No, this cannot be true. Then he calls the tax and says, Mr. Tax, my viewer, number so, I know, I'm just giving it to you. I'm not saying it is real. I'm not saying it happens, but I'm only just saying it based on my observation that, hey, my viewer is driving a car of so, and he's somebody I know very well. Because we have got into discussion and he told me that his income is so amount of money, and the tax authority said, are you sure? What's the name of what is the address? Okay, no problem. They don't make anything out of it. they keep quiet until the bill man put his own tax at the end of the year. And then, of course, there is another agency of the government that registers all vehicles. All vehicles you have ever bought in England that is on your name, whether you sell it or whatever you do with it, is there. Data is there. They will not look into it and say, you bought this car, okay, how much is this car? Like how much do they sell this car? Even they will go as far as calling the company that produces the car and say, this car so year, like how much does it, is it worth? They get all the relevant details. And then they ask the viewer, and then the neighbor. Now, the owner of the information say, hey, this man, this car is on your name. And we see that your income is so. How do we match the information? Can you please provide more details about your income? The man said, oh yes, of course. Of course, you see that I'm earning so much in the Netherlands, but I have other things I'm doing outside in other countries that earns me money. But, Mr. Man, you have not been putting these details in your tax return all these years. How long has this been going on? And then story starts. And it becomes a never-ending story. And then the man is getting blue envelope every 2 weeks. Now, that is one side to read. Another side to read is this. You have been honest, like Pastor said. You give the relevant details. You say, hey, I earned this amount of money from the country, this is the business I did. Of course, the calculations that are being done here are based on the information or details that are known here, not outside here. So from the moment that you provide those details, they will now take those details into consideration. It is now left for you to say, hey, it is only for this year or the years in the past. The only thing is the amount has accumulated. And because you are not sure of the amount, that is the reason why you have not or you dare not put up the amount. Or you can say, hey, no, it's a family thing. The only thing is they have not given me my own portion of the money. That's why I didn't put the money. So now they have given me my own portion of the money, and because I'm not living there, I cannot leave the money there. So that's why I'm bringing it here. So if you want to tax it now, all well and good. But in honesty, this is the situation. I'm giving scenario number 2. Scenario number 3, interesting part. You have gotten the money. You didn't declare it. Tax discovers because the money comes in to your account. Your bank says, hey, this is an unusual transaction. Trust me, you are in big time explanations which you have to make. The reason is simply because from that moment, your bank, you have to deal with your bank first. And then apart from your bank, you now have to also deal with the tax authority. So if care is not taken, you will end up losing the money. Because number one, from that moment, your bank will block your account. They will not give you access to your account because you have to explain which kind of business you did that gave you. That is why when you know that you are going to receive certain amount of money that is above the amount of money that is usual on your bank account, write a letter to the bank and say, hey, I'm expecting so amount of money, and this is the reason why the money is coming to my account. Does it have to do with the business transaction? If not, explain. If someone is paying you the amount of money because you're going to do business with the person, make sure you provide the details of the person that is involved, the address, every other detail that matters. Because the bank will ask questions. So the bank will back you up when the question goes from the tax authority also to the bank, because the bank will receive questions from the tax authority as well.
A follow-up.
Yeah.
At what point does the tax authorities know about that kind of transaction?
From the moment the money comes into the bank, because bank have been asked, although bank does almost daily returns to the central bank. And the central bank operates under the Minister of Finance. The governor of central bank operates hand in hand with the minister. Finance operates with the tax authority. Please follow me like I'm saying it now, so that at least there is no. So you will wonder, how can it happen that something happens in my bank account today and within few hours I'm getting telephone calls? Yes. The reason is simply because there is what is called unusual transaction on your account. It's a label on it. So if you're on a salary, your bank knows that every month certain amount of money comes in. You're a salary earner. That's it. You're a business. All these years, the maximum amount of money that has ever come to your account is 40,000. At any point in time, 40. It can be 40,000, 40,000, 40,000 something. But it has always been maximum 40,000. Good. 100,000 comes in. And then they will wait a few days. If you are going to contact them to explain what it's all about, if you didn't contact the bank to explain what it's all about, the moment you want to remove or you want to take money from ATM, you will see that your ATM didn't produce. And then they will say, your attention is needed. Then you know that something has happened. I hope you understand what I'm saying. They know that you have been doing business all these years. You have been sending out invoice. The maximum invoice you have sent out is 30-something euros. Boost, like one time, 100,000 comes in. You didn't explain to the bank, hey, I've sent out invoice for so service, and this money is going to be paid. The money comes in. The day you go to the ATM to take money, or you go to the bank, you will see that it's not working. They block your account from that moment until you come and explain to them. The reason is simply because it falls under unusual transaction. UT.
Another
Yes.
question. How do you reduce your inheritance tax? How can you
Inheritance tax,
sort of gift tax and all things with that?
you cannot reduce it. Let me be clear on that.
What can you do? Maybe ways to plan around it or
I think Pastor wants to say.
Yeah, I would just want to contribute when you finish.
Okay, now the reason I'm saying this is because you have to look at it from two perspectives. The person you are giving it to is the person based here or outside. You that is going to give, are you based here or outside? So all those factors matters. When all those factors are clear, that is when you can say, okay, you know what? Because if the money is going through the bank, you cannot lie about it. It goes from your bank to another bank account. If it moves from one country to the other, the banking system is networked now to work and operate with each other. So don't be surprised if ING can actually contact First Bank of Nigeria to provide details because they have received the transaction which government classified as unusual. So they will want more details. And because, of course, First Bank wants to have a bank internationally with whom they could relate with, because someday they might also need the help of ING. So they will play along and provide all the relevant details. So if it is cash, then of course, then it is only open to you, unless when it gets to a point where, it becomes official. Then if government do not classify it as, I don't know, I don't want to use this stupid, okay. So I hope it's clear. Okay.
And my addition, the way you can, a lot of things that we do that we're supposed to also declare as expenses, we overlook them.
Yeah.
So you can suppress your your tax
Yeah.
this thing with expenses. Even sometimes when you travel to and if you're a business person or you're a consultant or you have a company of your own, regardless of where you traveled to, you can also link it up with business and reduce it. And also I think there is something that says that privacy against financial disclosure. If you do some things, for example, if I'm doing any business in Nigeria or outside of the country, here, if I declare it, would government of Netherlands also give me some benefit as a result of that? If the answer is no, then I don't need to disclose my business in Nigeria. The Moroccans, if they do their declaration here, what they are doing in Morocco, government have a way of supporting them because there's transparency in the relationship between Morocco and here. So if you declare it, they get benefit. If you are already what I am bringing from Lagos, they already think that it's already suspicious before you present it. So when you present it, you are just serving yourself out to them. So it's, for me, I wouldn't do that. I've not been doing that. The kind of things is when you make money like in European countries, and you think that, oh, maybe you have a plan to buy something like buy a house or do something very big, and you need your bank to also support you. They want to see your turnover. If you have a good turnover, then they support you more. If you are not doing that, like like the case of I just mentioned about myself, I had a request in Nigeria to supply some trucks to a state government, and the trucks were not even here. They were in Germany. They are brand new, and I saw them there. So the money came from Nigeria, the supply went from Germany, and the company that also I transacted business with, they said that, do you want this money to come to Netherlands, your profit, or we can even pay you cash? And I said, well, and I said, bring it to Netherlands. And then when they brought the money came to Netherlands, they saw all the transaction and how much I pay for each of them, and they also saw my profit margin. But I didn't have much expenses to reduce what they were going to take from me. And then they look back after they took interest for that year. They look back. The last 2 years you didn't make profit, and we supported you. And then they look back again and also slash out from my profit. And then, as if that was not enough, they look 5 years. 5 years ago, there was another year that I didn't make profit, so eventually they took out the. So I was too honest. So we have to really be wise. Otherwise.
Thank you, Pastor, for the explanation. And that's the reason why I said that when you are dealing with the tax, the thing is, tax authority here, they are very, very. Let me say, the system has been put in place to be transparent, and the people who are writing the letters and putting all those things into operation, they don't know it any other way. Let me put it that way. They don't know it or understand it any other way. So if they see it, they put it the way they see it. Yes.
If I've never filled tax form or for tax return, from when is it? Okay. If I've never filled tax return or tax form, when is it advisable for me to start filling it, or can I leave it forever like that?
Praise God.
I have a follow-up to that.
Okay.
If I haven't been feeling it, like she said, then when I feel it, can I request for the past? Like, can I feel it for the past, basically? And then also, you mentioned something about the church donations and things. So if I filled for last year, but I didn't use the church donation, can I go back and say, oh, okay, I made donations last year to the church, so I want to like make corrections to that?
Yeah, you can make, you have the right to make corrections. If you discover yourself that, hey, there are some costs you have made which you forgot to add to what you have done in the past, and you have the evidence. You need to have the evidence, because if you put 120 last year and it is the same 120 this year, and there is no evidence that differentiate the 120, they will think you still want to put the same 120 of last year. So that is the reason. So, but when you have the evidence that shows either with your bank statement or with the statement which you got from the organization or the church which you paid to, and it shows clearly the date or which or let me say for the year which the payment was made, yes, they will accept it. They will just ask you to add it to the moment, or let me say for the period that is still possible for you to add it.
But I think there is a magic to it, how much you can pay from how much you can.
The thing is, when you let me explain this. You cannot have a salary of 50,000, for example, and you tell the tax authority. Now, after they remove tax, you have a net salary of 30,000, for example. From the 30,000, of course, you have to pay your rent, you have to feed, you have to do everything. And then you still go ahead and tell the tax that to pay, you support church with 20,000. And tax will tell you, come on, take it a little bit easy. It could be, then they will ask you questions. How much did you pay for rent? How much did you pay for food? How much did you pay for this? How much did you pay for that? Before you know it, they will give you a whole list of the things which they think, that will have helped you to keep you going for the period which you claim to have paid 20,000 to support the church. And they will tell you, no. They will say, okay, put amount which you have spent. By the time you put the amount yourself, you realize the amount that is left for you to spend is less than the 20,000. How do you come about the 20,000 which you have donated? Then they will tell you, then it means that you are doing money laundering. And that is one thing you don't want to hear. Because the moment they put it in that direction, trust me, last time I go feel come around. So, my wife, the question you asked, for every donation which you make to any organization at all, there is a portion, there is a threshold which the tax authority applies. Everything that is above that amount is what you are allowed to take back. Or let me say, by the time they do the calculations, that is the amount of money that will be removed. For example, for 2023, if, for example, you give, let me make it simple, if you give 500 euro to support the church, 385 euros of that amount is yours as expenses. 115 euros on top is what the tax authority will compensate on the tax return. So that means if you pay 2,000, for example, then the 385 threshold is yours. The rest, government will calculate it and then pay you back. Fair enough. However, government says it must fall within certain threshold of your salary, or let me say of your income, to claim that kind of money, because you cannot be, like I've explained, you cannot be handing 30,000 netto or net salary and you claim to have paid 20,000 to any organizations at all. It will lead to questions. Yes.
Um,
I actually have a question. Okay, so I have like two quick questions. One is in relation to the gift one, because you actually explained that it depends on various things, like maybe where the money is coming from and where it's going to. And I'm talking about double taxation. Let's say a typical scenario of the person giving the gift and person receiving are both in this country. So I believe, let's say for instance, I'm giving my wife some money. That money I've paid tax on it already, because if I receive it as income, then I must have paid tax from my salaries. Then does she also have to pay tax on that money, because it's a gift to her, but then I have already paid tax on it. So does she have to pay tax on it? Because if that happens, that means it's like double taxation on same income.
Yeah.
That's one. Then second is, so if it happens like cross country within Europe, let's say I have a brother in maybe Germany or UK that sent me money as gift. That money also, they must have paid tax on that income over there. So for me receiving it here, they also have to pay tax on that money, even though it's like within the same region. That was the first question. The second one is in regards to just to add to what Pastor said initially about the Nigerian business and stuff. So basically, I think majorly is also a trend that you checked out. Is there like a tax treaty or a benefit you get? If it's like maybe countries within the Europe, it's possible they have like tax treaties which you might benefit from. But in case of Nigeria, there is no tax treaty, and even the tax laws in Nigeria is actually increasing more. They're now asking people to pay more taxes. So you must have paid tax in Nigeria, and at any point, if you actually want to bring money into this place, you have to declare as worldwide income, and you still have to pay tax on it. Same thing applies with salary, like maybe for those people working 2 jobs, maybe in Nigeria and likes. So as far as you are receiving salaries, then the company paying you must have paid tax in Nigeria. So I think the major thing is if you have to bring the money into the Netherlands, then definitely you still have to pay tax on it. But if not, then I don't think it's actually advisable to declare it.
Praise God. Your first question. For the tax, you and your wife are one.
Okay, let's say it's not my wife.
So, if you give her gift, it's as you exchanging.
That's
It's as if both of you are exchanging gifts for each other. So it's not for them. Because if they do not tax it at your side, they will tax it at her side, but they will only tax it in one place. They are not going to tax it in 2 places.
Okay, so a quick one again. So I think there are some tax experts or tax advisors that actually help out with taxes, and what they just request for is like maybe your bank statement or the likes. I'm not sure they actually ask all of these questions. I think they just calculate your taxes based on the figures they see in your accounts. So does it mean that we actually have to like tell them that okay, this particular amount is received maybe from my spouse or so they don't actually include it? Because I don't know, is there a way they actually figure out all of that with?
Yeah, because they will see it from the bank statement. Because the reason is simply because that is the reason why they say the tax system is transparent. Because at the end of the year, all the organizations that pays you money, they send a copy to the tax authority. So by the time you put in your name and your tax identification number, or let me say your physical number, yeah, you see all those details coming out. The salary you have, the company that paid you money, the money that is on your bank account as bank balance, all those things will come out. It will have already been actually added. So you only need to put new details that are not known to them. For example, the gift which you pay to someone. Because if you pay, for example, if you pay money to your spouse, both the account of your spouse and your account are already lumped together. Okay? Unless both of you says, you know what, my wife is doing her own tax separately, I'm doing my own tax separately. What do they do? Automatically, the system will divide whatever is available between both of you, 50-50. So it's not as if, unless you indicate, no, this person is for my wife, 25%, this person is for me, 75%. But at the end of the day, you still realize that it's either you pay more tax, she pays less, or she pays more, you pay less. There are no two ways to it.
So even if you don't have like a joint account.
Doesn't make any difference. The thing is, both of you are living at the same address. Both of you have registered as husband and wife. Actually, if you want to do tax return, they will ask you, do you want to do it together or you want to do it separately? If you choose to do it separately, then the system will take all those things into consideration. So where it needs to divide it, it will ask you, what division do you want to use here? Do you want to use 50-50 or you want to use 60-40, whatever. So all along, you will be getting all those questions.
Okay. And also a follow-up question. And is it like always the same if you do it together and if you do it separately?
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
The thing is, the advice is, like I said, I've said it from the beginning, I'm not going to act as a tax consultant now, so general information please. So take note of this, because at least you don't say, hey, in the future, Mr. Nide, you told me this. So please. Now, the trick is this. It is always advisable to put more costs on the person who earns more to reduce the obligation. I'm giving you this, So please. Yes.
At what point do you become a fiscal unit? Is it registering in the same address or when you register your marriage?
Yeah, because for us who are living here, for example, let me give you a scenario. If you are married in Nigeria or any other part, but you are living here alone because your spouse is not with you yet. For the period that your spouse is not with you, officially, you are married, but the income is on your name. So the only thing you can do is every expenses that you make to keep your spouse outside here, you can declare it. It will reduce your tax obligation. But from the moment your spouse comes, then both of you are living at the same place. So you people becomes a unit. Because if the system do not know somebody physically at a particular address, there is nothing they can do about it. Because if your wife is, or the husband is living outside the Netherlands, and he or she is working outside the Netherlands, the assumption from the tax authority is that the person is also paying tax there. And you are responsible here, and you are also paying tax here. So the only thing you can do is to tell the tax authority, hey, I'm supporting my family, I'm supporting this, and these are the expenses. And you have the evidence because you pay the money to the bank. And then you can use that to reduce your tax obligation.
Okay, because of what you just said now. So when it comes to like supporting family, does it have to do with one spouse or like even family, like family at large?
No, it has to do with the person you are directly related with.
Like
Directly
siblings,
related is
mother.
your parents.
Oh, okay.
Your parents, your children. But brothers and sisters, they are out of the picture. So the people you are in direct line like this with, they are the people who benefit.
But what if a sibling is handicapped and completely dependent on me?
Then you have to apply to the tax authority. Why? I hope you understand the reason.
Yes, I do.
So why? The why covers a lot of things. The why means, our parents are dead. Have always been taking care of the person right from the time the person was young, or the person used to be so, but from the time these things happened, I've taken it upon myself because in the environment where the person lives, provision is not available.
or if you have an adopted child outside of the country.
That's also possible, but yeah, it has to be official.
Yes.
It has to be official. Yes.
My question is about if, like, when you receive your salary in a Netherlands account, you then move, say, a portion of its savings to another account that is not in the Netherlands, and then you decide to do whatever with it in the other account, maybe invest to do stuff. Do you then need to declare what you are doing in the other account here?
Honestly speaking, the answer is very subjective, honestly speaking. Pastor has given one or two scenarios. So, the money you are using is net, received from your salary. And you are spending the money. Of course, when you are filling your tax will ask you, do you have information which is not known to us in the Netherlands, which you want us to know?
But you already paid taxes on the salary.
That's not what you say.
But I don't think it's an issue. Because it's already come into your account and you've been
That's
already. So you try.
for that one, it depends on where if the account is within Europe here. The important thing is when you pay your tax on your income here, what is left is yours.
Yes, yeah.
And you can use it anyhow, anywhere.
Yeah.
So that question is that they may ask you whether you have
Income also.
everybody have one or two things that they are doing outside, and not everything should be recorded.
Yeah.
So if you don't really, if you know that the profit you are making wherever you are investing is coming back here officially, then I think you can hide only for a while before the future. Yes. So you have to really. It depends on what you are doing. Some things will be done outside. You don't need to tell them here.
Yeah.
Some things you are doing there, you know that you can't hide. You have to tell them. So it's discretionary.
But
Sorry, I just want to say something too. If you try and fill the form yourself, so for me, I usually, every year, before I give my tax consultant to do the form, I go in myself to see what they know. So there's a place you see all the, they will prefer all the details that they know about you, so at least you can use that to
Yeah, but what she's saying is, or what she said is, every month your net salary comes in, and you use the money to do other things outside the Netherlands. She wanted to know if she also is having the obligation to fill in what she did with the amount. And of course, tax knows what they're doing. The reason why they did it like that is because if they introduce a benefit or something that says that, hey, if you have something like this outside, and if we know that you have it, you will benefit so in the Netherlands, and you fill it in. From that moment, you have a big issue because you have never reported it. So it's either you choose to let the sleeping dog lie, and you close your eyes because you have a very good reason to say, yes, what I did it from my net salary. So it's as good as me buying a car. You are not going to query me why I use my money to buy a car, because it's my choice. Okay? However, the moment, and that is the tricky part of it, because if you have done the same thing in the Netherlands, you use the money, the same money which you have paid money on, you use the same money to buy a house, for example. Government will now look at it from another perspective and start also, again, charging you tax on it. However, the thing is, the place where you are spending the money is also subjected to another tax system. So take note of that as well. So this is the reason why you have to tell them, no, I decided not to report it here because the place where it is also subjected to tax. Otherwise, I'm liable to two tax systems. So in order to avoid that, I let what is in there to take or be responsible for what is in here, and I'm here. Also, what is here is responsible for the information that I provide you. Yes, please.
A follow-up question to what
Yes.
she asked. So, let's say I have a Dutch bank account and I also have a digital bank account. So I send money to my digital bank account. Okay, I understand that I've already paid tax. I don't have to pay tax. So if another money like enters into that digital account, like maybe outside of the Netherlands or anywhere, that is digital to digital. So like, maybe at a point, do they know that my digital bank account, if the money that is in there, like all the money that gets in there, is not from me? Yeah, and do I have to like file that one also as my second bank account, just because I don't want them to find me maybe later in the future?
Sorry, I want to be clear.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, before that. So they will automatically know. I think if you use your all those like Wise, all those
Yeah,
Wise, if you register with your Netherlands details,
Yeah.
Everything.
So I have to
they,
file
even
that
to
one.
tell them, they will know.
They will know.
Okay,
They
so
know.
when I'm filing the tax, do I need to submit
That's what
that?
it will show there already that
Okay,
these are the bank accounts that are known to.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you have 10 bank accounts, because all those people, and that is the reason why we have just mentioned the digital tax or digital innovation, whatever. Now, what happened is within the EU and also some countries in Europe, where the EU is having a special agreement, everything you do, every transactions which you do, they are obliged to provide all the relevant information, details to the tax authority.
But what about Brexit?
Brexit do not affect it, because the reason is simply because there is also an agreement with the UK government on that. So when you, for example, I am going to be very direct on this. I have a stock account. Last year, I saw the list of where, they made a list of my account, and I saw very unusual name. And I didn't feel anything. And I was looking at it, this name doesn't say me much. And then I went to Google it, and then it turns out to be the company in the UK where I was running my stock account. And I had to go back to all my records to start, adding everything together and put something. Because the reason is simply because, and that is where the tricky thing comes in. Tax, they already knew. They have the figure, but they wanted to see if I will come up with something that is close to what they have. Because the moment I put a figure that is very far from what they have, and then they will tell me, well, it's okay, no problem. They will now send me an official copy, which they receive from the company, and ask me to start explaining the difference. And because they themselves discovered it, they will now find me anyway.
But what if you like that your stock account? What if you move out those money before the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah,
You
of course.
spend it like an expense. Like just
Yeah, it's okay, but where did I move it to?
That will not be seen.
Yes, so
It
because
will still be seen.
I want to because
Like
of
you
this,
just
this
said
stock,
in
this
Nigeria,
stuff, like
Ah,
basically, because in Netherlands, in UK, they actually don't tax like investment and stuff like that. But here, they actually tax your investment and savings. So even if you have a stock account in the UK, as far as you're actually resident here and you're paying tax here, you have to still pay taxes on the returns or dividends from your stock
Yeah.
account.
But the UK is already taking tax from that one.
UK doesn't tax on
They don't take tax.
I think if you have,
Even when you can tax it, and you can show that, hey, your dividend has been taxed in the UK.
Yeah.
Your dividend has been taxed in the UK. Then Netherlands will not tax it again.
But is it right? Because if you are actually living in the Netherlands, then that means you are tax resident in the Netherlands, and based on the tax treaty, you are not meant to pay tax in the UK. Because if you have to pay tax in the UK, that means you have some other kind of legal stay over there to be able to pay tax in the UK. Then two is I'm talking about the tax on savings. Maybe we are saving now. Okay, we are saving. I'm saving in an account in the UK or stuff or what have you. I've already paid tax on the money. So maybe after like 10 years, 15 years, yeah, you actually mentioned the figure like up to this amount is being taxed. So after maybe 15 or 20 years, I want to bring the money back into the Netherlands. Am I going to pay tax on that money because I've already accumulated tax and paid it off?
No, the thing is, for the period in which the money is in the bank, is on the bank account in the UK, the question is the bank in the UK sending your statement to the tax authority in the Netherlands? Because if the bank is providing the tax authority in the Netherlands all the details about what you have there, they will also provide the amount of money which you earn as interest, for example. And they will also provide if your interest has been taxed in the UK or not. If it has not been taxed in the UK, then it will be taxed here. If it is not taxed, and if it is taxed in the UK, it will not be taxed. If it is not taxed, then it will be taxed. So it's not. I mean,
it's going to be on the interest.
So the issue of double taxation, as far as Netherlands is concerned, if you let them know, if they know, no problem. If you let them know, they will apply. At least they will respect that. They are not going to tax you twice.
I think what is important is also what Bra Ayo said, that you go through their own calculation first, see all what is inside before you start confessing. So when you see all
the system is, you see, I mean, it used to be, it didn't used to be like this.
yeah.
But since about 10 years now, everything is being digitalized. Database is being centralized. So that's the reason why everything becomes an open field.
And what I noticed that is bringing people also in a problem nowadays is this crypto. You will see people put a lot of money in the crypto and they are making loss. But because government is having, that is what they put in box 3 now, that they said they will start from 2020. They are still silent about it. But what they do say now is that they bring it under box 3. Then they said all your, how do you call it? All your what is in the box 3 now?
Your wealth.
All your wealth, all you have. That means the crypto, everything is under that one now. But if they mention it a little bit that do you have it, they will ask of it silently. So how do you answer it actually? Because maybe for some people
silently.
yeah. When people these people, when they mention something, they have all the information. You understand? So and if care is not taken, you start
surprise you.
You start confessing.
Praise God.
Hallelujah. How do you
you see, like I said, the tax system in the Netherlands is so put together because the people who put them together, they are people among us. So they are not people from space. They are people among us. So when we sit down together, socializing, networking, whatever, they listen to us. They hear stories.
I hope you are not hearing our story. The one we are telling now.
we are telling now?
And of course, when they get all those information, when they get those details, they do something with it. So it is not as if, but the funny thing is, it is not as if they get the information now and they start acting on it. That's no, because they need to have the backup of the law. The law have to give them the green light to start applying it. So that means, and that is why they said, point 2 there, continuous adaptation to meet economic challenges and global standards. When they have an information, they hold it, they evaluate it, and they look at where it has to be applied to benefit the system. And when it benefits the system, of course, at the end of the day, it benefits the common man. The only thing, of course, they always say it, they don't want a situation where, I gave a story about the neighbors who is doing this, he says, hey, tax. They don't want that. In fact, there are some people who have big problem with that kind of thing. They say, but I'm working so hard, and then my neighbor, who, I don't see him going out in the morning, but he's driving big car. How? And so all those things. But we are children of God, so let us be guided by the Spirit of God as well. Yes.
Oh yeah, I have a question on.
Yes.
You made mention of that is in box 3 now.
Yes.
Yes. So you made mention that there are some like taxes, for example, on wealth taxes.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to meet like a particular threshold before they start taxing you. So what's the percentage on that tax? And when it comes to inheritance tax, like is there a percentage on it? What's the percentage?
At the moment, honestly, I do not have the correct information. The reason is simply because it is not something that happens all the time. And it varies, the threshold varies every year. What they apply in 2022 will be different from what they apply in 2023. What they apply in 2023 will be different from with what they are going to apply in 2024. Now, for 2024, of course, we are going to be getting the tax obligation request from February next year, and then so that means what they will apply again for 2024 will be different. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to tell you more about that as far as gift or inheritance is concerned. The only thing is where the inheritance is applicable in the Netherlands is that the children that are going to benefit from such inheritance, they are based in the Netherlands, or they have an official address which is known to the tax authority. The person who is paying can be anywhere. If your parents are in Nigeria, for example, let me be specific, and they give you 50,000 euros, and you didn't tell them on time to say, hey, Dad, Mom, please keep the money in Nigeria for me for now, and then they send the money to your account in the Netherlands, and the tax authority and the bank sees the money coming in, and you didn't tell your bank on time, and they place UT on your account on usual transactions. That means the first 90 days, you will not have access to your bank account until you explain to them what it's all about. Of course, from that moment, they will inform the tax authority, hey, Esther received so amount of money, and she has explained to us that the money was made for so. Fine. That is where it stops, as far as they are concerned. However, at the end of the year, if you fail to also indicate what it's all about, because your employer will send their own summary of the amount of money which they have received. So that 50,000 is already on your account. As a matter of fact, you see it that the tax indicates that's in there, but you still have to indicate to the tax authority that yes, this money is meant for so. That is when it will be subjected to tax. Yes.
My question is, if I don't have a business, but I'm rendering services maybe to people, and what I'm making is like small money. So let's say I sew a clothes for instance, 100 euros per month. Do I need to declare this to the government? Since it's not like a big money.
If it is coming to your bank account, you don't have to declare it. You don't have to do any
If it's coming
explanation
into my bank account.
okay, but if it is not coming to through your bank account, I always leave my answer for this kind of question in the middle because I don't want to implicate myself. So the thing is, like I said, we have explained, whatever is known to the tax authority is known to them. Whatever is not known to them, and nobody play you out, is not known to them. So the choice is yours. If you make it known to them, you are being honest. It's very nice. They're happy with you. It's no problem. There's nothing wrong with that. But the moment you go a little bit further, and you give them the information, then that means from that moment, you have to endeavor to be giving them the information. Because otherwise, if you give them one time, if you do not give them another time, you will receive later. Yes.
So I also have a question, more like what I'm asked.
Yes.
So does that mean that if you don't fall to the threshold of the first income and tax, like 40,000 something, and you don't end up to that, does that mean you won't declare your tax or?
No,
there's
you
a lesser
will
percentage?
declare your tax
I think you
because
start from zero. It's 0 to 40,000. So
Yeah.
you can.
yeah. So the thing is, the reason why they did it like that, the reason why you have question, you still have question.
Yeah, more like just upgrading. So let's say that you're a freelancer and you don't, maybe you operate another digital wallet, maybe like they pay into your PayPal account or something. So is it also part of what you declare? What if you don't use your Dutch document to open the account?
It's not a problem. The thing is, PayPal is also obliged to provide all the relevant details of your income to the tax authority as much as easy. That is the reason. You don't be surprised towards the end of the year, they will send you requests and say, hey, please confirm your address. Please confirm if these are your details. And then you know where it's coming from. Because if you don't confirm it, then all of a sudden you don't have access to your account anymore. Yeah.
So does it also apply to student jobs, like maybe normally you pay tax like for the organization, then you still file your tax return at the end of the year?
Anybody that gives you a job,
Yeah.
must, under the law, provide relevant information about the income they have paid to you. The income, what they provided to you shows the amount you have received and the amount of tax that has been deducted from the amount you have received. That is the primary thing. So it shows that, okay, you know what, you are not just living in Ireland for the fun of it. You are also part of the running of the economy.
Yeah, but if you have not any much, you can decide not to be filling the tax.
What is much? What is not much?
Yeah.
The thing is, the reason why most people feel tax is from the moment you find yourself in a situation where you think you can have some benefit from the tax authority. Then of course, it is better for you to feel the tax. For example, if you have your own house, it can never be good enough if you refuse not to fill your tax, because the interest which you have paid on the loan you got, you have the right to get it back. Not many countries apply that kind of benefit. So if Netherlands is now giving you that opportunity, and even when you borrow money to do renovation in the house, you are still allowed to.
And that is what I'm trying to say. If I don't borrow money, I don't have house, and what I'm earning is not yet up to 40. I know I'm not getting.
But by filling tax, under that condition, by filling tax, even they will know if you are qualified for house subsidy. Subsidy on the house rent.
Okay, that is it.
Because they can supplement your rent because you have low income.
Okay.
So another benefit,
for the
even
house,
your health insurance can be subsidized.
Okay,
Yes.
that you are right.
You see, tax authorities at the moment, they have so much money that they themselves are afraid of, because many people are not filing their tax. And because they have the right to get money back, the money remains with them. So what the tax authority did is just to create a provision that, okay, you know what, if someday this man wakes up or this woman wakes up and files this on tax, then we have that surplus there already to pay the money back. They have the money there. In fact, last year they were saying that they are going to start a kind of campaign to start asking, especially young people, a lot of young people, they have worked, they have paid tax, and then they didn't get what I call, let me say, social security. So the money is just, and they don't feel tax.
And when the last they have to pay you money, it's one time, boom, you will love it. Only when they have to collect that from you.
It's the same thing.
They want it. And I have a question.
Yeah, please,
In box 2.
Pastor, please read.
Oh.
For sole proprietors, apart from VAT, do you still pay like income tax?
Yeah.
As a business or as an
Yeah,
individual?
yeah,
How
because
does it work?
I mean, everyone under the law in the Netherlands, everyone is expected to have source of livelihood. That's the primary. So whether you are doing business or through salary, another mode of income is the social security department is paying you income because you have worked for a certain number of years, you are not jobless. So the social security system, it takes care of your income. Another way is, of course, the social security is not taking care of your income. Then you are supposed to have money from the local government, that is support. That support, from the moment that the government is paying you money, the government is acting as your employer. So there is, at any point in time, there is no way you are left empty-handed. The system is built up to take care of everyone, at least if you are officially registered.
Yes, but for the social, for the entrepreneur, let's say a sole proprietor,
Yeah.
will the business pay its own taxes independent of your own tax?
Sole proprietor do not pay a separate because you are not different from the business. You and the business are one.
So how do you determine the tax you pay? Is
Okay. Now let me put it this way. It is expected that when you do business, you will make revenue and make profit. Okay? Then your profit is your income. I hope you understand I hope you understand the logic. So if you during the year you have a revenue of 50,000, for example, out of the 50,000 you incurred cost of 30,000. The 20,000 on top is your income, which you declare to the tax as your income for the year. And that is what the tax will now calculate the tax that you're supposed to pay. So it's always advisable for sole proprietors, the moment you start business, to always keep a very small, or let me say, portion of your profit apart that will take care of your tax obligation when they request for it. Actually, they say the advice is that you keep 30% of your profit to take care of your tax obligation. When the tax authority requests for it, then it's just a question of saying, okay, you know what, I've been keeping your money for you here. But if you don't keep it, and you fill your annual account, and it shows at the end of the year that you made profit, and they calculated everything, and you are supposed to pay certain amount of money to the tax authority, of course, they will send you the bill, and you have six weeks to appeal. And say, hey, I do not agree with the calculations you have made. But in the meantime, it's always advisable, pay first. Pay first. When you pay, and then you have an argument, and they still have to pay you back, fine, they will pay you back. More questions, please. It's already 4 o'clock.
Yes, let me ask this. In box 2, you said, I want to us to, I mean, if I invested 20,000 euros
Yeah.
within on some instrument in the Netherlands or
Yeah.
within Europe, and have a profit of 8.5%,
Yeah.
which would be 1,700 euros per annum. How much tax am I like?
Your tax will be your tax will be placed on the profit, not on the value, because the value is the value will be-
8.5%.
the value will be part of your wealth. Okay, the value will be part of your wealth, but the profit will be subjected to tax.
Okay.
So the tax, of course. Let me see if I have something on that.
I think you say if it's above 5%, then we would have to pay.
Let me see, stepping down the road.
It's in box 2.
Box 2. Yeah. So, you see that the amount you are mentioning is less than the 67,000. That is one thing. Another thing, because box 2 says you have substantial. What is the percentage of the substantial which we are talking about? The substantial we are talking about is 5% of the value of the company. So if the value, for example, if the value of the business or the company where you invest is 1 million, the 5% is so low, 50,000. So the 20,000 is less than the 50,000. So actually, you don't have to input anything. So these are the things. So, but when you know it, of course, that is when you will apply it. So you must always be aware of what I'm doing now, does it meet the threshold where I need to do this or take that action? Very, very important.
So that means the case of investment in stocks, because it's below, maybe if it's maybe 20K in stocks, and it's below this 57 and 114, you don't really have to.
There is a difference between the situation. The investment you make in cryptos falls in box 3. And that's a different thing entirely. But we are talking of substantial interest. Well, let me break it down. If you invest in Tesla, I don't know the value of Tesla now, but you invested in Tesla that your invest is 5.5. You can imagine how much that is. That is when it matters to fill it in.
5.5 of
5.5 of the value of the company where you invest. That's what they are talking about.
So
if you are
you mean 5 of their stock
of their value. So if the company you are investing, if the value of the company you have invested is 2 million, for example,
yes,
it is like you are a shareholder.
okay.
I mean, that is the technical side of it. It's like you are part of the company, actually.
Yes.
Because you are earning salary, you are not involved in day-to-day activities of the company. But however, your money is working for you in the company. Then you have to indicate what you have invested, so that on the basis of that, they will be able to calculate. That is what it means.
So that means our regular trading 2 and 2 doesn't
Goes into box 3.
Yeah. The box 3.
Yeah.
So we don't have to declare because
Where's that?
it's below. But also this is the total of all your money, not just that investment.
No, it's just because don't mistake. If you are in business, you fall in another category.
Oh yeah.
Okay? But if you are earning salary, but out of your salary, you have invested your money in another business, and the money you invested is more than 5%, you are part of the company. That means you are having a shareholding that falls within the category of substantial interest. Now you have to provide that value of that substantial interest. You have to provide the value. And then when they say, did you earn dividend, then you have to provide the dividends which you have earned.
I have another question.
Yeah, please do.
What if So in this investment,
Yes.
so like in case of trading 2 and 2 others, you instead you paid into that account from your Nigeria account.
Off record.
Unfortunately, the bank, the tax authority will only base their judgment on what Trading 212 provide to them. So it doesn't concern them where your money was coming from. The Trading 212 will say, okay, you know what, this man has been trading with us and he has so value of asset with us.
But who is it upon request by the government from 212
Well,
212 will just
government, yeah.
be so faithful to contact my government and tell them?
That is the funny part of it, Pastor. Tax, like I already gave an example of my own, because I mean, the thing is, tax authority, all those digital platforms, of course, they don't want to go against any law in any country, especially within Europe. So that means, because for Trading 212, for example, if you know the numbers, if you know the numbers of people within the EU that are their customers, too enormous. So they wouldn't want to do anything against law that guide that kind of thing as far as EU is concerned. So they have to abide by what the law says.
And
And
provide
then-
information to the
And provide information.
But they are providing your portfolio summary, not where the money came from.
And that's why I said where the money comes from. I mean, if you pay money to Trading 212 now, hardly they will ask you where the money is coming from, because they will have known you for some time. They will have gotten some information or details from you. They only see money coming from a certain bank account. If your background used to be from Nigeria, and now you are transferring money, and now you are living in Europe, you're transferring money from your account from Nigeria, they're not going to make an issue of it. The only thing that concerns them is, from that moment on, what is, or let me say, their dealings with you, or you're dealing with them.
Okay, that could be a nice route to bring money from Nigeria. If you can transfer from your account from Nigeria to trade 112.
You can trade with 212 as a Nigerian or as a Netherlander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So